Go ahead. And also nice. Perfecto. Well, let's start. Today's panel is Decoding Supply Chains and Brand Transparency. We have two amazing ladies that know a whole lot about this. And we're going to start with this amazing panel that I know you're going to enjoy and learn a lot from. My name is Araceli Gallego. I'm the country coordinator for Fashion Revolution UAE. I'm also the founder of Coshopia.com, which is an online marketplace for slow, sustainable, and socially responsible brands. And oops, sorry, like there are so many things moving around my screen now. and we have also in the room Adila Kokar. Let me tell you a little bit about Adila. There you go. She is award-winning entrepreneur and author of Source My Garment. So you guys, if you're needing a book that explains and dives deeper into this topic, you can actually get the book and read it. She has over a decade of expertise in sustainable product development and offshore manufacturing. She's the founder also of Source My Garment, which started in 2015. She empowers designers to create responsibly made products. She offers guides, coaching, and online courses. She has been featured in Apparel Magazine, Sourcing Journal, Women's Wear Daily, and a whole lot of other publications. So she's very well known. And in 2020, COVID years, she launched a brand. It's called The Good Tea. You can find it here, and it's totally fully transparent and fair trade. She uses cotton certified, and it's basics. It's a basic collection, so you won't see anything, it's easy to mix and match. And the mission is to celebrate the makers and humanize the apparel industry. We're gonna be having her link information, all her Instagram and LinkedIn on the chat. So in case that you guys want to connect with her, you can do it through there. We also have our lovely, jubbly Rachel. Rachel is also a fashion revolutionary. She happens also to be the founder of the Fashion Network Dubai. We were very happy to be able to host the launch of the first event actually that happened here in Dubai. And she's not only the founder of Fashion Network Dubai, she's also a sustainability consultant dedicated to guiding fashion brands towards a more sustainable future. She has a background in environmental science and years of experience in the fashion industry. And she is a specialized in helping brands navigate the complexities of sustainability and integrate ethical practices into their supply chains. So we're going to put also Rachel's information on the side. Please follow her. Make sure you join the Fashion Network Dubai Instagram to stay tuned for future events. We're going to be doing a whole lot of things. We need more communities like this, like ours in this country. And before we start talking about this, but Fashion Revolution, every year from 2017, produces a report that is called the Fashion Transparency Index, right? I think this is not many people know about it, actually. It may sound a little bit technical, but it's basically that Fashion Revolution sends questionnaires to around 250 brands that have big turnovers, over 400 million US dollars, more or less, give or take. And basically, it asks questions about their policies. It asks questions about human rights. It asks questions about fair pay, about environmental issues. And what we are tracking with this report is basically the transparency, which is not sustainability. Transparency is not the same as sustainability, but the only way we can know how sustainable they are is if they are able to disclose this information. That's why it's very important. I'm going to share with you a 1-minute video that I think is going to explain you a little bit, and I think you're going to really like it. So let me share. You guys see this? Are you able to see my screen? Yep. You see it? Yep, okay, I'm gonna start the video.
With time running out to act on the climate crisis, transparency matters more than
Oops.
ever. Transparency is a crucial first step for measuring and reducing fashion's footprint. Without it, problems go unaddressed in complex global supply chains.
Okay, YouTube is really
We
low.
can only fix what we can see. As citizens, we have a right to know how, where, by whom, and at what human and environmental costs our clothes are made. Fashion Revolution believes transparency is essential for achieving systemic change in the global fashion industry. That's why every year since 2017, we published the Fashion Transparency Index to spotlight how much information the world's largest fashion brands are disclosing, and it's working. More brands than ever are telling us more than ever, things like their carbon footprint and child labour policies. Increased transparency has fueled the beginnings of a global greenwashing crackdown and has made recent workers' rights wins possible. Progress is also being made in the notoriously secret luxury sector, with brands disclosing their factory lists for the first time. This year, we introduced stronger climate change indicators to track brand and progress on decarbonisation. And for the first time in 2023, 2 brands scored 80% or higher, proving that while transparency is achievable, it's still the bare minimum to change. Industry-wide transparency is still far away. But let's keep holding brands accountable and use these findings to fuel the activism. Read our latest report on our website.
Right. Sorry, maybe it was a little bit jumpy. So in case that you couldn't see it properly, I'm copy pasting here the link so you guys can see it. I know it's like it was lagging. You're right. Yeah, it was lagging a little bit too much. So there you have it. That's the link in there. You can have a look at it. You can also find the, let me share with you the, oops. Okay. This is the report itself in case that you guys are curious and you want to see who is going first and what not. I can tell you that there is a lot of brands that actually scored very poorly, like they're not disclosing information at all. It's quite a lot of brands actually. The top brand disclosing information, you will be surprised, is the Gucci and OBS. Zara and Mango are in the middle of the table, around 49–50%. Shein is a 7%. But we have Dolce & Gabbana with only 2%, Louis Vuitton with only less than 30%. I think there is a lot of things to be done, right? In no matter if it's fast fashion or if it's luxury, there is still a lot to do. So, Rachel, what would be your definition of transparency, and why do you think it's important, no matter the level or of the brand? Why do you think it's important to disclose this information?
Yeah, I mean, first, let's break down exactly what supply chain transparency even is. And for me, it's about a company that's openly sharing information about the journey of the garment, from the raw materials all the way to the finished product. And in fashion, that's so many complex different steps, and that involves production processes, raw material sourcing, all the way down to labor conditions that's involved in bringing a fashion product to market. And I think it's really important to have a level of transparency around that for 3 reasons. Number one, it fosters accountability. and it promotes ethical practices and also ensures fair treatment of workers. I mean, the whole reason fashion revolution started was because of the collapse of Rana Plaza. And I would argue that that happened because there's a lack of transparency around the treatment of workers there. And so I think can you hear the storm behind me?
That was the storm? I was like, guys, mute yourselves, and it's the storm. Oh my Lord.
Big storm in Dubai. Anyway, so overall supply chain transparency is so important because it allows consumers, we the people, to make informed purchasing decisions that are aligned with our values and facilitate, greater trust in these brands. And by understanding where our clothes come from, we can support brands that prioritize that level of sustainability and drive positive change within the fashion industry.
I agree with you. Adila, would you like to add something else?
Okay, well, you clearly put the whole definition of a supply chain transparency. But one thing I'd like to add about supply chain transparency is that it also relates to sustainability as well. Because if you understand who the makers are, how things are made, you can also, contribute to the environment as well. But what I like to tell businesses and designers is relationship building, because there's a huge disconnect in the fashion industry where brands are outsourcing. They don't know where things are getting made. They don't know who they're working with. And this is where, issues happen, is when you don't know your supply chain. And, I see like most of you here, I think are designers or might be, in the industry, but I really feel that smaller companies is where we have the most power, because the bigger companies like Eileen Fisher, a while ago, she had projected she wanted to learn who her whole supply chain is. And she said that she wants to figure that out. But that happens when you're a bigger company. But as a smaller company, you have more control. You can figure out, where the farming is done, where the knitting is done, all of that stuff. You have more control. And that's kind of why I started The Good Tea, was to create, a fully transparent supply chain. So we openly share that information. Like if you go to the website, I tell you who the knitter is, the dyer, the weaver. Prior also to starting The Good Tea, I was working with other brands. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I kind of want to tell you a little bit about my journey with supply chain. I was helping other brands manufacture overseas. I was getting the GOT certification for its organic cotton, but I never knew where the farm was. Like I could map out, I knew where everything was made, but that was kind of a red flag as well. Like why, and like just discovering that, like, why that was a red flag, because, eventually I started learning about the farmer situation and how, how many suicides are happening in India. Like it's a huge issue. It's just like, yeah. And, when you don't know, like just finding that, when you don't know something, that's when an issue is, you can delve deeper into and see, okay, why don't I know that? There's no reason for anyone to not disclose information. I don't understand why everyone's like, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to tell you where the factory is. There's no reason to. If you have a good relationship with your factory, there should be no reason why you can't disclose that.
I think it's due to a fear of being copied, or fear of being at least in the luxury, there is a lot of proprietary ways. They like they pride themselves on being things that are handmade, that is very skilled, that if they share who these people that are doing the things for them, which end up being also factories, because of the amounts that they produce, then all that magic, all that narrative disappears, I find. But yeah, I agree with you. Even if that's the fear, if everybody is sharing, then you know what I mean.
Right. But if you have a good relationship with your factory, they won't go and reproduce the same thing for someone else. If you have the contracts in place, you have good relationships. I think this was about 15 years ago, I manufactured something like with my own company. Somebody actually tried to copy me. Like things, and I found it in the store, and I know my factory, like how they produce it, but you know what? They could never do it exactly how I made it. Nobody can ever, even if they go to another factory, they'll never create something the way exactly how you produce it. So I think that has actually happened to me, but I feel like that fear of like being copied is like, I don't know. And if you have a good relationship with your customer base as well, I don't think that there's anything really to fear if you're confident about your product and how things are made. So
Well, I agree maybe for that segment, but for luxury, they are copied left, right,
yeah,
and center, so I
luxury.
totally get it.
Yeah, luxury, yeah. And
I mean, here you go to Karama and you know what you can find in there.
are you talking about the fakes, like the fake
They're fake,
item?
but they are copied. They are copies, and many of them are coming from the same factories. In any case, let's go back to
Yeah.
let's
Sorry.
not
Yeah.
derail too much the
Yeah.
conversation. I want to ask you, both of you being US consultant, Rachel, and you have experience also in doing this because you also work for brands as sustainable consultant. What are the challenges that the brand that you work on faced when you were actually working with them?
Yeah.
Like what? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think when you're thinking from a brand perspective for supply chain from a sustainability angle, one aspect that often gets overlooked is data. When you're trying to have a fully transparent supply chain, data management and data analytics play a huge part in that. And sometimes smaller brands don't have the resources to, really make most of that data, especially when you're thinking of a global supply chain. There's a level of complexity there that is really kind of hard to wrap your mind around. For example, if you think of a garment, a garment has zippers, buttons, maybe trims, maybe embellishments, the fabrics, the dye. And oftentimes what people don't realize is that all of those components can come from different factories or different suppliers, different subcontractors. And that's just one garment. When you're a brand and you're releasing hundreds of new garments, multiple seasons a year, there's a level of complexity that it's really hard for brands to tackle, with multiple tiers of suppliers across countries, across regions, laws that they have to adhere to. So I would say from my experience working with clients, that would be the biggest kind of thing to tackle with achieving supply chain transparency is the complexity of it and thinking of ways to effectively manage data around it.
Data, yeah, it must be difficult for small brands. Adila, what's your opinion on what do you think? What were the challenges? For example, when you were starting the Good Tea, what challenges did you face?
I think for me, I don't know, there wasn't so many challenges figuring out the supply chain, except for the farm. The issue for the farm was that I couldn't understand where the farming was coming from. So what I did was I got Fair Trade Cotton certified. So I pay monthly dues to Fair Trade Canada, and then they disperse those dues to the farmers. But with the help of a flow cert certification, which you need to get from Fair Trade Canada, I was able to find out where the farmer was. So it's a flow cert certification with our supply chain. But I found mostly it wasn't until like we had to measure our impact. That was like the data again was more difficult. But I think that the raw materials is probably the hardest part of figuring out. Yeah, definitely.
How do you think as brands can balance like what we were talking about, the now people want to know, but that they at the same time don't want to share the information for competitors maybe to copy. So how can they balance that, protecting their IP or protecting their who is the key manufacturers for them, to the fact that actually the people want to know and they have the right to know? What do you think could be the sweet balance? Or is there a balance at all? Or do we have just to share eventually, sooner or later?
I don't know, for the Good Tea, I feel like I openly share everything. Like
I think in your case, because your brand and you as a hardcore revolutionary also, I think that from the very beginning you set up your mind. This is how I want that I want it to be fully transparent, fully sustainable. I want to make sure everything. But many other brands, they start from a different perspective, and they transition, right? So
right, but you have to
I think that's what's hard, right? How do you balance it in that case?
Right, but you have to take baby steps, right? So you can maybe do a factory walkthrough or video. You can share small things. You know, it doesn't have to be everything at once. Like, you know, you just, that's how you build trust. You can't just, you can't have both. How do I explain this? Like, you need to have transparency in order to build trust. And that's how you're going to get, you know, your customers to come in. You can't, like, I can't just be like, oh, I'm fair trade certified, you know, like those certifications are so confusing to consumers. You need to show how, like, it's just about being transparent. Talk about your manufacturers, talk about like how things are made, who are the people that are making them, why you're doing what you do, share your values, like talk on a personal level so that you can connect with your audience. It's not so complex, I feel. It's just about being open and honest, you know? Like I did one thing with an influencer called Sustainably Chic. You can go on her website and see it, but I disclosed all my costs. I know a lot of people are afraid to do that, but I know I'm not like gouging anywhere. It's costly what I do. So I decided to share that. Not everybody will do that, right? But you have to do what you feel comfortable with, right? Like if you go on our website as well, you can see factory walkthroughs. I have videos for like, they're really old. I made it looks like a home videos. It's so sad, but at least it's something to show like, you know what, it's just, you can see who are the people making it. What are they about? Like share, you know, information about who the factory owner is, where it's located, that kind of stuff. Like very simple things. It doesn't have to be so complex. If you don't want to give the name, don't even give the name. Only do whatever you feel comfortable with, I feel like.
Yeah. And I love that you have that perspective, Adela, like you being the founder of a sustainable brand, The Good Tea. But I guess from my kind of experience with working from clients that sometimes they want to be more sustainable, but they don't have kind of the, what's it called, the incentive to, in a sense. And this is just from my experience with working from different clients. And you know, the question that you asked, or Sally, really makes sense because when you're in business and you're a for-profit business and you want to make money from the brand, at the end of the day, the bottom line counts, right? And so there has to be a balance. There is a balance with whether being fully transparent with, hey, this is everything we're doing. This is all our factory list. This is all the information that we have versus, you know, maintaining a certain level of competitive advantage. And for me, the way that I always approach it to them is that there's this quote that I always kind of remember in the back of my head. And it's a quote by, I forgot his name, but he's the CEO of Unilever. And pretty much what he said is that in terms of sustainability, if we're doing everything right and no one else follows, then we would have failed. And that's kind of the mindset that I hope brands kind of approach sustainability with, that it has to be more collaborative, you know, and less competitive in that sense. And I think for brands that are wanting to be more sustainable but don't want to, you know, perhaps reveal all their trade secrets, is to really approach it strategically. There are certain things that you can absolutely disclose, such as your sourcing practices, you know, the labor conditions from your factories, the environmental impact of your production, while at the same time safeguarding, you know, proprietary information like manufacturing design or, you know, intellectual property. So I think there always has to be a balance. But at the end of the day, I think it's important for brands to really approach it with a collaborative kind of mindset and wanting to do good rather than just, you know, if we're sustainable, we want to be the most sustainable, but no one is sustainable. Then what's the point of being sustainable? You know, sustainability is for all of us. It's for planet Earth, let's just say. So that's kind of my view on that.
I want to read one comment here that Alexia is doing on the chat. She says, Adela, you are the first local brand that I see using God's cotton. I find it very difficult to get transparent information from local brands call themselves sustainable compared to European market of sustainable brands. I even wrote to a brand to know more where the material was made and came from, and they never replied to me. So for now, I only stick to buying sustainable clothing when I travel to Europe only, unfortunately. Customers need to understand that no one can be perfect, but they need to see the steps that brands are taking to be more sustainable. I agree with you, Alexia, but up to only a certain step. I tried to help in the past to two of my brands that are part of the of Goshopia to get GOTS certified. They were fully ready, really. But when we reached out to GOTS and we were trying to get that happening, they were charging a whole lot of money, and Adila maybe can testify this certification is not cheap because we are not in the area of influence. They wanted us to fly them in business class, put them in 5-star hotel and give them the sweet life for as long as the certification would be required, you know, and that was very costly. When you are a small fashion brand producing locally, we have to take into account that certificates are also very expensive. You have a certain volume or you are producing in countries that they are close to the certification bodies, then it gets a little bit easier, but we are very far from them, and that gets it very tricky. I also have European brands within Goshopia, and I can see the difference in the narrative between the brands that are in Europe and the brands that are over here. It is very, very difficult. So just wanted to make that note in there that it's not exactly easy to get these certifications, no matter how ready or how prepared you are, because there is a very high cost that eventually you need to repercute to the clients, and you need to make sure they're going to be happy with that. And you're not going to be losing your clients because of price, because you're giving them a paper saying that what you're doing is already what you're doing. You know what I mean? So, because that already has a cost. The fact that you are doing things right, and Adila can tell you that because she has the good tea to prove, doing the things the right way is more costly than if you just go to China and produce. So definitely, it's just an additional cost that you need to add. The certificates themselves also is a cost. Just wanted to mention that. That's why, and that drives me nicely to the next question, which is actually, how do you guys think the small and medium fashion brands can then become more sustainable, can be more than more sustainable, more transparent, both things? How can they be, how can we help them? Do you think there's any incentive, any technology that maybe could support the transition for small and medium?
Yeah, so a few of my clients actually are small and medium-sized businesses. And, you know, being a small and medium-sized business, of course, you don't have access to the amount of capital that bigger, larger corporations have. But what I always remind them is that there are so many resources that are available, whether it's through trade associations, NGOs, government resources, and some of those are great. And so to always kind of, you know, search for those. And one example is, for example, the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, the HIG Index, and also Fashion Revolution Transparency Index. There's a lot of great information that a lot of non-profit organizations are, you know, providing to help these small and medium-sized businesses grow, to provide guidance, support, and resources. And then also, you know, potentially adopting cost-effective solutions like supply chain mapping tools, supplier engagement platforms. But I guess it depends on the business, and those solutions could be more customized. But, you know, in conclusion, I think small and medium-sized businesses shouldn't really look at themselves at a disadvantage to be more sustainable, because there's so many resources from the government, from trade associations, from, you know, all around. You just have to look for them and really learn how to implement them well.
Yeah, I think also when you are small, as you guys said before, you are more in control of who you are working with. So you just have to maybe wise up and make sure that you're working with the right people and choose your suppliers, looking, you know, for the proper things.
Yeah.
Adila mentioned, and probably in her book, you can find all these. What things you need to pay attention when you're going to be starting to work with a supplier? Adila, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I know it's really complicated, this whole sustainability, you know, topic, but I really like to stress, like, just start with your values, like what's important to you. And from there, you can figure out like where you want to go, you know, what's important to you. And then the second thing is, which is a nice tool for startups, is so we're B Corp certified. We actually recertified maybe about 5 or 6 months ago, and we improved our score 30%. So we're at 113 now, which I'm really proud of. It was really hard to do, but you know what? And I'm going to tell you, yes, B certification is really hard, especially depends what stream you're in. But you know what? I learned so much much. And prior to be like doing the actual certification, they have something called B Lab prior to doing it, where you can walk through the steps. So it's very simple that way. You know, they talk about sustainability, transparency, governance, and like inclusivity, all of that really good stuff. And you can work step by step and just take baby step. There's so many things. There's so many things, you know, in this industry. You know,
B
but
Lab is totally free. So any small company, you don't need to pay to actually join the B Lab, and you can play a little bit like, okay, this is because the questions will open when you start putting your input in there. So when you're small, it would be different. When you have, if you grow your company may change the questions that you have to address. But it's a fantastic exercise to start having things into. Well, it forces you to actually sit down and think, what do I want to do with my company in terms of policy making? And, you know, create the right policies and make sure that you are implementing them. It's a fantastic. I'm so happy that you are a B Corp, because it is an achievement, darling. Congratulations. Not easy. It's a lot of work.
Can I just say one more thing? I know there's a big talk about certifications, and we do have a lot of certification, but there was a time when I hated certifications. Trust me. And I know it's expensive because there's so many, like, you have to look. Anyways, I don't want to get into why I didn't like the certifications. I ended up getting a lot of certifications, but my reasoning was because of the fair trade. Like, I wanted to pay dues to the farmers. And the other reasoning is the network that you get from certifications. It wasn't really like, for my reasoning, it wasn't that like, oh, I just want to prove I'm better or whatever. It was never like that. It was more about like, I love the B certification. I love that. I love the process working through it, but I also love the networking, because when you're a small business, you want to network, you want to collaborate, just like Rachel was saying. And when you have people who are in a certain, you know, certification, like let's say women founded, you know, you have some commonality, and you have a chance to work together to grow. And then that way, you know, you can talk to one another, like, you know, everybody who's in this group, like everybody make friends, you know, like talk to them like, hey, what are you doing? Get ideas, you know, because like this topic is so huge. We could sit here and talk for days. I love this topic, you know, but we all have to like Rachel was saying, we got to work together, get ideas from one another. Like, I was just, I'll give you a small like idea of what I was thinking. Just like a few weeks ago, I was looking at our profit and losses, and I'm like, wow, the shipping is costing so much for us. So my thoughts were like, oh, why don't I just ship everything together, because it's a timeless product, and release them one by one, you know, like you can, there's also cost saving benefits to being sustainable as well. Like, I know the certifications are so expensive, but there are ways to reduce your costs to make things more efficient as well. So sorry, I just went off on a tangent again, but I wanted to talk about that.
We need to get creative in
I
any
stop.
case.
I'm sorry. Okay, I won't do it again, I promise.
No, you talk. But what I mean is, like, we need to get creative in any case in this space, because definitely cost is an issue. No matter if you're big or small, it's always an issue. But when you have the additional cost that comes together with sustainability or certifications, or having organic cotton instead of conventional cotton, we know all these actually adds up to the price, right? So let me ask you, do you think, because from Fashion Revolution Transparency Index, there's a lot of things that will make you wonder, but basically, we have no clue about the amount. 99% of the brands did not disclose the amount of clothes that they produce, and this connects directly with waste. Like, for example, Adila, in your case, you are producing a timeless, basic, good quality cotton t-shirts. So in your case, most probably things will end up selling because it's not pineapple or whatever dinosaur Donald print or whatever. But 99% of the fashion of the 250 biggest fashion retailers do not share how many items of clothing they are producing. This is like, we live right now in such a moment of overproduction that is just so much. Do you guys think there is a way to improve this transparency, because this is key, I think, for the especially I mean, the whole idea behind this is to improve, of course, people's lives and keep the environment safe. This overproduction that is totally undetected because we don't know how much they are producing, we don't know how much they are selling either. How can we tackle this?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, and that's a very complicated question. And I would almost kind of switch it around, and instead of saying how can brands be more transparent about how many clothing they produce, to changing that to how can consumers use their power to dictate that. Because my view is always that the power is in the people. We, the consumers, we're the ones that have the purchasing power. We're the ones that drive the demand that influence corporate decisions. So I think as people, as consumers are becoming more educated, and I think education is a separate topic, but consumers definitely need to become more educated on, you know, these types of facts and issues. I think as we become more aware and educated on them, that we make, you know, informed purchasing decisions and ask the right questions and demand accountability. And then also, you know, changing the consumer mindset instead of, you know, the brands produce that much, they overproduce because consumers overconsume. And that's just the way it is. But so I think the solution really is not about brands being more transparent about how much they produce, but really changing the consumer mindset around consumption. You know, and I think that there's so many initiatives in the industry now, whether it's, you know, circular fashion with rentals, with thrift shopping, with clothing swaps that Fashion Revolution is doing this weekend, are great kind of starts and great initiatives. But ultimately, yeah, it comes down to education. And I think it's actually good now because we're in this digital age where social media plays such a big part and is such a powerful tool for consumers to, you know, advocate and amplify their voices, which is, you know, what we're doing, what Fashion Revolution is so good at doing, and, you know, create awareness around that. And hopefully that can, you know, create a domino effect.
Hopefully they get the memo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully they get the memo. That's the whole thing. I agree with you. We know very well that this revolution is happening from the bottom up. And probably is the only way, really. But I don't know. What do you think, guys, about regulation?
Sorry, what do you think is?
Regulation, law. Like, for example, in Europe, we know, in US, in Japan, the CSDDD, all these laws that are coming, trying to.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, it's quite difficult. I think that, I mean, it depends on the region that you're in, but it's quite difficult to implement how much a company can produce. I mean, from clothes, from food, from all areas of business. But one kind of positive step towards the right direction is that in Europe, you know, they've implemented that luxury brands have to stop destroying their products that haven't sold, which is great. And I think, you know, as we continue on to this path of fashion sustainability, more and more regulations and government laws will be in place. But I think that that's just kind of out of my scope in terms of, you know.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this question. And if we are to because the brands got so good at greenwashing, it is difficult for consumers. And actually, we're giving the power to consumers, but at the same time, the brands and their marketing departments are so good at greenwashing, right?
Yeah.
How can we actually make this? Because certifications will help on one side, but certifications are not for every pocket at the same time. So how can we make this work, you know, like, how can we stop greenwashing? Or how can we be educated enough to reach everywhere so that they know when, I don't know.
I think this just goes back to like transparency. The more open you are about what you're doing, how you're doing it, that builds trust. Like certification, sure, they're great, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's about what you're communicating to your customer. How are you educating them? You know, you can even like telling them how to wash their clothes. 80% of your environmental impact actually happens when you're washing and cleaning your clothes. So if you can educate the consumer on different ways of being sustainable, like what's important to you, share your values, just being open. you know, it'll prevent any type of greenwashing because you're just building that trust with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my concern is that the fast fashion brands have bigger marketing budgets, so they can actually build that trust also because they're big household names for many people that are not necessarily within our entourage of fashion revolution that are more aware. I got messages confirming, oh my God, Primark is sustainable now, look. And it was literally like a little corner that was selling organic socks, but they had the whole building in Madrid plastering like, oh, we are sustainable now, we are sustainable
Right.
now. That
But
to me is
consumers have to
greenwashing
be-
because you only have one little portion of the shop dedicated to really something sustainable. The rest is thinking polyester. Yet you are actually plastering the whole screens on the whole building and even the bags, everything saying like we are green and we are eco.
Right.
And they are actually kind of like using the term in such a wrong way that then the people that are working hard for it, they feel discouraged because of course they cannot compete in price because in reality they're not, it's not peers to peers, apple to apples. You know what I mean?
But
Yeah.
that goes back to the consumers, like Rachel was saying, like educating yourself, like, is Primark, do you really think that they're sustainable? Like understanding who's greenwashing, right? How do we educate ourselves on, you know, how do we prevent, like, how can we try not to even buy from fast fashion brands? We need to support small, we need to support local, we need to support, you know, people who are making a difference. It's like, it's voting with your dollars. They can say whatever they want, but we got to get smarter about like
Exactly.
who do we want to support, right?
And I
Yeah.
think we need more examples like this, more forums like this, where we get to speak openly about this so that people get to be more aware. What do you think, Rachel?
Yeah, I think, I mean, whether we like to accept it or not, greenwashing is just never, it's just never going to go away. Greenwashing is a marketing tactic. And, you know, when you're in business, you want to promote yourself in marketing, and greenwashing, you know, greenwashing sells sometimes, which is why a lot of companies that are not, you know, essentially sustainable do it. And I think a kind of way for consumers to differentiate between a brand that's actually sustainable versus greenwashing comes down to education. And it's about, you know, looking for credible third party, you know, verifications, certifications, and all that stuff. Unfortunately, those topics aren't sexy for consumers, you know? I mean, Adela Good Tea is doing an amazing job with like the B Corp certification, fair trade, and all that is great. But at the end of the day, we need to find a way for consumers to actually not only understand what that really means, but care about it enough to use their dollar to vote for a more sustainable brand. And yeah, so I think.
So the strategy is to keep on educating them. We need to keep on educating and thing that can be very useful for all of us. Next Saturday, we're doing a social media for good. It's a workshop. Habiba and Pauline from our Fashion Revolution team are going to be showing how you can use your social media to influence your circle so that they know where they can find, you know, where they can be, how they can be more sustainable, you know, the changes that you're implementing in your life and have a ripple effect with the people that you, that is in your circle, you know, word of mouth at the end of the day.
And one last thing I will say to that, I have friends ask me, okay, you work in sustainability. How can I tell if a brand is sustainable or not? You know, I would say prioritize progress over perfection. You know, Primark, yes, they're fast fashion, but you know, if we have to buy Primark, if we have to buy Zara, prioritize the sustainable materials, you know, the natural materials, the organic cottons, the linens. And also something that is very telling whether a brand is sustainable or not is to do your research, you know, go on the website. Usually they'll have a sustainability section. You can read through it. They'll have their supply chain practices, which includes their supplier list, sometimes their sourcing policies, and a sustainability report. And it's a good sign when a company is presenting that information in a clear, concise, and consistent manner. So just look out for that.
Yeah, and in my case, I started Goshopia because I found it was very difficult to find sustainable brands that would be in the region, that would, many European brands don't send to this region, or they cost a fortune to be shipped here. So that's why I started Goshopia. And we have a questionnaire for brands that join, and we go see their factories, and we speak with them. If they have certificates, much easier. If they don't, we speak with the workers. We go see the factories. We find out, you know, as you said, we speak about all the different pillars that we need to know. If it's the material, the people, everything, how it is sustainable and whatnot. So we avoid the greenwashing within the platform, because it's super important for us to make sure that everybody in the platform is following the philosophy that we want. But I know, though, because I'm super stubborn person and I'm very thorough, that not everybody has the patience to go through what I went through. And that's how actually Goshopia was born, because like people wanted to know, okay, so when you got these, how is it sustainable, da, da, da. And eventually I say, you know what, I'm going to just create a marketplace with this, because there is a real need. Because when you're buying, you may be needing something, and you're not going to start looking on Instagram, do a research. I'm telling you, sometimes I was spending hours and hours and hours just trying to figure out if they were really sustainable, if not, if it was greenwashing or not. And then you need to find what you're looking for. So maybe after so much work, you don't see the styles that you're needing, or they don't have the size that you're needing. So I think that's also when, you know, like sustainable platforms such as Goshopia could come handy, because that was the reason first I addressed the problem as it was my problem. And I kind of like, you know, share it with the world in a shape of business. So, but I think it's important that, so if you guys don't want to go through the headache of going researching and stuff, you can find brands in there that are already better and they're already checked, and it's much easier. So I have one more question, and then we will move, because it's 7 o'clock already, my lovelies. I want to ask you if you think innovation, regulation, and in here I'm meaning with innovation, for example, blockchain. Do you guys think this will move the needle for the future of transparency and getting to know where things are coming from and where going to?
Definitely blockchain is it. Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause it's the only way you can see where the transactions are happening. And yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Is it easy to implement blockchain into a fashion supply chain? Adila, did you do that for
The only person that I've been following closely is Queen of Raw. I don't know if you guys have heard of her, but she's been doing this for years, like just taking dead stock from factory and moving it with blockchain. But it's still like relatively new. Like people need to do the transactions, you know, like in a certain way. So it's still, but I feel like that's like the only solution, is like how else? Everybody needs to be on the same you know, wavelength. And but yeah, I don't know of any other tools or anything else that we can use.
I know something is cooking in Italy. I don't know if they have already made official or not, but they are working on a solution that would, mostly they are focusing on luxury brands, so that they want to be able to track all their supply chain. But if that works out, then probably they will share the solution, or maybe pay for the other brands. Let's see how that works out. But I think that would be definitely something very interesting for the future of the supply chain transparency. Yeah.
So what are they
Yeah.
using? Is it blockchain or is it something else?
It is based on technology blockchain. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they have not disclosed especially much details as yet. They're just working on it. They have some big investors behind, and we are really waiting and looking forward to see what, if that actually is something that can be implemented. And of course, there's nothing with the people that are probably paying for that, which is this luxury brands. And then let's see if they can, if the solution is, it can hold the rest of us. But yeah. And what do you guys think about regulation? Do you think, because we live in complex, like the supply chains are so complex. You produce in one place, your trimmings and your fabrics is coming from somewhere else, then you're selling somewhere else, And so all this is so complex. How do you think maybe regulation, because we don't have a global regulation that would work on this, what do you think would be a good way in terms of regulation to support the sustainable fashion brands?
I think regulations, it's going to depend on the region, the country, but going back to blockchain, I think there's going to be a lot of kind of links between blockchain and regulation. I think, as we continue to move into a more digital world, and global supply chains are becoming more and more complex. Yes, blockchain right now, the concept is new to a lot of businesses and a lot of fashion brands, but absolutely my view is that blockchain is absolutely going to help revolutionize supply chain management by providing real-time tracking of garments from source to shelf, which I think is going to be amazing, which will help with regulation. And so I think regulation and blockchain will go hand in hand. And I think something else that goes hand in hand with regulation is also consumer expectations and demands. And I think as we continue to demand for traceability, transparency, traceability, sustainability, all that demand is going to prioritize ethical business practices and regulations. So I think time will tell, but I believe we're moving in the right direction.
Perfect. Guys, do you have any questions that you want to address to our lovely panel? Let's see, we have here a lot of tests. Let me see.
We do have a couple questions in the chat.
Perfect, go ahead.
I'm just gonna go back to go from last to a more previous. So Anita has asked, what is your view on smart labels to combat transparency, greenwashing, sustainable storytelling, and also metrics?
Smart labels, kind of like RFID tagging? Or
Hi, this is Anita here. Thanks for asking my question. Yes, basically looking at technology to be a part of building transparency and how smart labels can help. It could just be the face of a QR code, but with real-time information behind it, which provides adequate information for making more informed choices for consumers, as well as getting the right kind of metrics for the brands, staying connected with consumers, but for the brands.
Yeah. Hi, Tika. Thanks for asking that question. I think, any product or service that can promote more traceability and transparency in the industry is always good, because that just means that they're tracking it. And when you have the data and you have the information, that's when brands could go off of that and provide solutions. And I know that there is a technology existing now, and there are a few variations of it, but one of them is called RFID tagging, and that's the technology to track and manage clothing throughout the supply chain. But what you're talking about is perhaps like a tag where customers can kind of scan, you can see the whole product life cycle, the story behind it, right?
Yes. Maybe I can add a few more points after you've finished answering my question.
Yeah, no, but some fashion brands are already implementing that. And I think just overall, that's such a great initiative. And I think that also encourages customers to connect with their clothing in a different way, understand where it's coming from, what the story behind it is. And back to Fashion Revolution's initiative, ask the question, who made my clothes? Where are these things coming from? So I think that's a great initiative. And I think it's encouraging customers to look at clothes in a different way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally agree. We'll have to look into this solution. Thanks for bringing it up, Anita.
Thank you. If all right for me to quickly introduce what I'm doing, is that all right? I'll take a minute maybe.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. So I run an organization called Astu Eco, and we're currently working on a SaaS platform called Circu, which is looking at building circular economies in fashion. And one of the things that we are doing is the smart labels. Basically, the core of it is digital IDs, wherein each product will have a digital ID and we'll have traceability, trackability. For the brands, they'll be able to stay connected with consumers, as well as share the right kind of information that they want to regarding the storytelling ability of the product. But for consumers themselves, it helps in two ways. One is having more information so they can make better decisions regarding the products that they are buying. Also, it looks at helping declutter their wardrobes into circularity. So just wanted to share a little bit of what I'm doing. Maybe if I get another option, I'd be happy to share more about what we're doing.
Sure. Do you want to copy paste your information in the chat so that we can connect with you and find out more?
Absolutely.
Initiative. Well done. I'd love to learn more about it.
Yeah. It's super interesting.
Thank you. So we also won a National Geographic Award. We're the only Indians to have won that. I'm also a finalist in the Lakme Fashion Week Circular Design Challenge. And we've been in the space of designing products till date, but we've moved now to tech. We've completely pivoted to tech for bigger impact. Happy to share information on the chat.
That's really good. Yes, go ahead. I will share their information there. We'll get in touch with you and find more questions probably that these may you know, we want to know more about it.
Done.
We also have more questions on the chat. Pujita, best to ask questions to the brands, ask consumers to know if they're greenwashing. What are the questions you think a consumer need to ask to know if they are greenwashing?
Who made my clothes? Right?
Yeah.
Who made the fabric? Where is it made? How is it made? You can ask literally anything you want to know that's important to you, I think. You know, post it on Twitter, say it on Instagram, do it publicly, ask the questions, you know? People should be transparent, right?
Yeah, and I find that from my experience working with brands, they're so much more willing to share that information when it's asked on a public forum. So definitely use social media as a tool to do that. And also, you know, define what's important for you. You know, there's so many aspects when it comes to sustainability in clothes. It could be from fabrics, it can be from, you know, the people that made my clothes, supply chain, it could be the brand values. Ask yourself what you prioritize, whether it's investing in, you know, just good quality clothes versus, or, you know, or buying thrifted clothes, for example. See what works for you, and then ask brands those questions. You know, you can ask them about their supply chain, their sourcing policies, you know, their carbon footprint, whatever you're curious about. I think that's a brand's responsibility to be able to relay that information to you or to the consumer, their customer.
I'm reading the comments in here, and they're also very interesting. Alina is concerned about the amount of clothes that we are producing. How, if you go to a Forever 21, how cheap and how much stuff you can find in there. So she's concerned about how like the young population is going to be able to you know, not to feel the push of buying. And also it's important, something that she mentions here. Fashion is supposed to be a way how we express ourselves, but we as consumers buy from a variety of reasons, including stress and frustration, which is true. We all have gone through all those trips, retail therapy, and we go to the mall because we are feeling frustrated and we are looking for something. So I think this is also important, that there is an emotional factor to fashion, that when we are talking about sustainability, we're telling them to restrain a little bit, like buy only what you need, buy only what, but there is also a natural element in our humanity that sometimes we just feel like we need to go out and buy something, sports and something, right? They're asking also about shops. Alexia mentioned secondhand, thrift for good. We are big supporters of thrift for good. You will find them also on the 20th of April. They are one of our partners, whatever. We love them very much. But even thrift for good, because you know we partner with them very much. We know they also struggle with the fast fashion brands. Because when they get the items, they are in such a poor state. Maybe they're not that old, they're not that worn, but the stitching is bad, it breaks easily. It's even difficult for them to sell those items. We have already Vestiaire Collective that is saying that it's not accepting fast fashion brands anymore. There is a reason for this. So I think we need to, yes, of course, use secondary markets, but at the same time, we need to start supporting the people that are doing good quality. We cannot think, oh, I'm gonna, just buy fast fashion brands, and then I will just put them in the thrift store. So I'm not guilty anymore. In reality, for them, it's difficult to sell those pieces because they are not as well made. They're not produced to last long. And so think about that also when you are buying. Try to buy quality over quantity, and invest. Think of the cost per wear. It makes more sense in the long run, really, rather than just buy fast fashion and then think, oh, I'll just it's gonna go back in someone else's closet. It is an option, but definitely even for them, it's difficult to sell secondhand fast fashion brands because the quality of the clothes is not there. So Vivian mentions, quality over quantity, precisely what I was talking, my darling. The shops, check out my own shop. If you guys want to have a look, it's goshopia.com. It's coming from Go Shop Utopia, Goshopia. Easy to remember. Have a look at it. You have a lot of brands that are all sustainable, slow, and socially responsible. Vivian mentions responsible design has extremely important role on this. 80% of the impact of the product is determined at this stage. A lot of things can be controlled or improved in the early stage. That is true too in terms of waste. The sampling process is very wasteful, is true. There's technology now that is making it a little bit better. We did another panel last year's Fashion Revolution about digital fashion and how, for example, cloud can improve the amount of samples that are being made to reduce waste in the long run. I agree also we have zero waste design that also makes, big impact in terms of waste. It reduces the waste. But it's important also that as designers, everybody on the floor, think about this when you guys are producing. I don't know if we have something else. Aisa?
Can I add something to that as well, to the 2 points that you were saying about one of the ladies commented and said that, fashion is so related to our sense of self and our expression. And I would say, absolutely, I agree with that. And I would also advise, anyone on their sustainability journey to look at sustainability and living a sustainable lifestyle as more of like a holistic type of journey, because you can be, quote unquote, sustainable in fashion, but maybe your other lifestyle habits, like your consumption of plastic or the car you drive or whatever habits don't align with that. And I think it's important when you're looking at sustainability and living a sustainable lifestyle to prioritize progress over perfection 100%, and to not guilt yourself or guilt other people and being like, okay, you're buying fast fashion, okay, but they also throw other clothes or donate other clothes or mend their clothes, whatever. So I would prioritize progress over perfection in your sustainability journey, and view it more holistically, and not just the clothes you wear, but the products you buy, the food that you eat, your habits. So yeah, that's just kind of my take on it.
It is true. There is a saying that we better be 1 million people doing imperfect sustainability than having only 10 people doing 100% sustainability. So the impact that we get as a community, it is much bigger.
Yeah.
Guys, do you have any more questions or any more comments? Because it's 7:17 already. And I don't know if you guys want to keep on talking about it. Remember, we also have the WhatsApp group. Can we copy paste the WhatsApp group in here so that everybody can join the WhatsApp group of Fashion Revolution community? We can keep on the conversation there. We can share the videos there also so you guys can have a look and see. And yeah, please. There you go. Aisa, super, super good. Put it in there. Join if you are not already part of it. That way you will, you will have be part of the community there. Guys, thank you so much for joining today in our rainy day today. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Jilly. Thanks a lot. Thanks everybody that has joined us today. Thanks, Rachel. You know a whole lot of things, and thanks a lot for sharing all your knowledge with us. Adila, you are inspirational, my darling, really. I hope a lot of brands get to follow your steps on this. It will be really, really lovely to have more, more like you, so passionate and so dedicated to make this change. You wanted to say something, Adila? I thought that you wanted.
Oh, I just was gonna say, yeah, thank you, everybody. And yeah,
And Aisa, my super helpful, she has been helping me so much around this fashion revolution that honestly, thank you so much, my darling, for all your support. So we are Fashion Revolution, and tomorrow we have more. Make sure tomorrow you tune in for innovative materials. We're gonna learn a lot. We're gonna have Aisha talking about the things that she has new in ethical elements. We're gonna have Kim Tan from Costerra. If you guys don't know what that is, it's an amazing fabric that absorbs CO2 from the atmosphere. So you're actually kind of like reducing pollution as you walk. So join us. It's going to be very amazing. I'm going to be also talking about some materials that we have received in Goshopia that are pretty amazing, I must say. Some incredible materials that are going to definitely get your eye. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to see you tomorrow. And make sure on Saturday you are all coming. Times Square, starting 10 o'clock.
Sounds good.
thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thanks, Alina. Hope you're feeling better, darling.
Yeah,
Bye,
thanks,
Araceli. Thank
Araceli.
you.
Trying to feel better. Such a lovely session. Thanks very much.
Take care, darling. Pujita, thanks a lot for coming always, my darling. You are a star. Nadia, all the way from Abu Dhabi. Thanks a lot for joining, my love. Eliza, oh, we have one of our models here. Thanks for joining, Eliza. Pallavi is an amazing podcaster, and you guys have to check her podcast. It's called Eco Heroes. Pallavi, you want to put the link to your podcast in the boxing here so that they can see? I love our community, honestly. It's super good. We're all pushing for the same, and it's super nice to have you guys. There you go. Or Pallavi, maybe you want to put it in the WhatsApp group. Did you join the WhatsApp? Because only 8 people now left here. So Adila,
I don't know if my microphone works, but wanted to say thanks a lot, Araceli. And yes, I'm getting better and really lovely and insightful session, and nice to see you. You look great. And
Thanks
love the
a lot.
earring and the lipstick coordination. Amazing. Ooh.
I had to change them because the other ones were disappearing in the screen. Yeah, you see, like I wanted to use my paper ones, but they were disappearing.
No, these are amazing.
I'm like, okay, I'm wearing my earrings. Anyway, guys, so good to see you. I'm happy to see you feel better, my darling. Hopefully you feel totally recovered for Saturday and you can come over and spend a little bit
I
of time
hope
with us.
so. Fingers crossed. I hope so.
Take good
Thanks
care
a
of
lot,
yourself.
Araceli. Thanks. Take
Bye.
care. Ciao.
Lovely discussion, Araceli, today. Thank you.
Thanks, Gauri. Thanks a lot. We need to
Places to go.
speak tomorrow also about the
Yes,
other
we'll catch
panel.
up. Yeah,
Yes.
we'll catch up.
Now I have a meeting with Ashani about the, oh, wait. Yeah, exactly. I stopped the recording because we're like, So now I have to speak to Ashani about the video.
Please be aware.
Okay.
Hang on, we're still recording.